Hey, what are you guys doing here? Guess I better talk to you about some new chip strategies and how you can get off to a great start in FPL this year and maximize that early season variance before the template teams start coming into effect. So first up, just a quick overview. We've obviously got the new rules this year, which means you get 2 sets of chips. You can use your bench boost, triple captain, free hit, and wildcard from game weeks 1 to game week 19 in the first half of the season. And then you get all 4 of those chips again to be able to use between game weeks 20 and game weeks 38. So how does that affect our plans for this season? Let's get right into it. So first up is the wildcard and the bench boost. The wildcard gives you unlimited free transfers in a game week. You also carry forward any free transfers that you had before that. That was a new rule that FPL brought in last season. So if you had 2 transfers and then you wildcarded the week after, you would still have those 2 transfers carried forward. For a bench boost, it means that all players on your bench count towards your game week score along with the original 11 in your team. Now, I think some things just to think about in the grand context of FPL is that between game weeks 1 and maybe game week 10, that is often where you see a lot of variance in the scores. It's the time where you can really gain a lot of rank on people, have very different teams to other managers, and that's before the template teams start to come into effect later in the season. And the reason for that is because the managers of the Premier League teams aren't sure of the tactical tweaks that those other managers are going to be doing, and we are not sure on what the teams that are going to be playing. We are not sure what positions players are going to be playing, how Pep Roulette is going to be working, and some other tactical intricacies that we only pick up as the game weeks evolve. And then sometimes some of these cheap and budget players become great options later down the season and form part of those sort of template teams. So this is a really important opportunity for you guys to be able to attack those first 10 game weeks and make the most of those early season variances. We haven't had this opportunity in previous seasons to have these chips available to really attack these few weeks. And I think with the new changes coming in for AFCON, where you have 5 free transfers in game week 16, which almost acts like a mini wildcard at that time, you're able to attack that early period of the game using these chips to be able to maximize the points that you get where there is the most variance in points in FPL. So, thinking about that, what is the strategy that we would look to use for the season? So, I think the first things first for this is you should have a look at when the fixture swings are in the first half of the season. Often you want to use your wildcard when there is a fixture swing to transition your team from maybe 1 or 2 specific teams that you're targeting to another couple of teams that now have good fixtures later in the season. So if I pull up here, when is the key fixture swings for this season? And guys, just a quick shout out, if you have been enjoying this video so far, please remember to give it a like and smash that subscribe button. It will really help the channel going forwards. Let's get back to the video. You can see that actually in the first half of the season, there's only really one major swing. I would say between game weeks 12 and 13, you can see the sort of turn for Liverpool, Man City and Newcastle. This is from a defensive aspect. It looks quite similar from an offensive aspect as well. I do my own fixture difficulty ratings, so it looks slightly different for attacking and defensive fixtures. This is based off my thoughts around the teams, how they performed last season, what their attack is like, what their defense is like, how many goals they scored and conceded last year. So looking at that, it really does look like game weeks 12 and 13 is one of the major fixture swings. The other one, which looks like sort of the end of a really good fixture swing, is between sort of game week 7, 8, 9 period. You can see the teams that start the season really well, both from an attacking and also from a defensive standpoint. Their fixtures start to end around that sort of game week 6, game week 7 swing. Specifically, Arsenal's defensive fixtures become a little bit nicer from game week 7 going forwards. So for me, that transitions to how I would look to be using my wildcard. Potentially, I would look to use it in that game week 7 move, or I would look to maybe use it in that game week 12 and 13 swing. However, I do have one other thought on using that wildcard, and again, that is down to looking at this early season variance and maximizing those points. Often we use the bench boost after your wildcard in order to wildcard into a bench boost and therefore have maximum teams for a double game week later in the season. In the first half of the season, there's not likely to be a double game week unless something crazy does happen, which it has happened in previous seasons. So obviously you could wait and see. However, I do think game week 1 is unique in it is the only week that you can make unlimited transfers and use the bench boost in the same week. No other week in the season are you able to do that. You've always got to play your wild card in the week before and then bench boost in the week after. Players can get injured, players can get suspended. Lots of things can happen in between that week that could cause your bench boost to be less effective. You then do have your players on bench boost with the price spread across your whole 15, and then you have to resolve that later and get yourself back to a nicer team. Often when we bench boost after a wildcard in the back half of the season, you're bench boosting in that sort of wildcard 35, bench boost 36, and then you only have the effect of that spread fund squad for 2 weeks in the latter half of the season. In this case, you would have to deal with that squad all the way up until potentially use those 5 transfers in game week 16 to get rid of that, or you wildcard early in the second half of the season, or you slowly move out with transfers you've saved up. That's going to be at least 3-4 weeks you're playing with this squad, which is a little bit thinner on the ground than you would like in terms of the funds are spread across the whole team, and you don't have maybe those big hitters that you want available. So my alternative option for you is you play that bench boost in game week 1 and you look to use an early wild card, potentially in game week 4 during that international break, where you can pick up additional price movements over the 2-week period of the international break. You might be able to increase your price by making transfers early in that international break and raise the overall team value that you have of your team. Now, this could be something that's really important this year, is maybe making a few early transfers and increasing your team value, given how tight FPL have priced a lot of the players this year. So if you put together a bench boost in game week 1 and you hear people telling you, well, your game week 2 team is not that nice, it's looking a bit tricky, well, my thought for you is there's another chip ready to go that you could use for game week 2, and that is your free hit chip. Now, I think game week 2 is a really nice option to use your free hit chip. Potentially you want to go into some of the Arsenal players that have leads. Maybe you want to change your team a little bit, given that your bench boost maybe didn't work out how you wanted it to in that first game week. You want to go for something slightly different. We've got a bit more additional information. It allows you to use that free hit, take a punt on 11 players that you think, and really, again, maximize the variance in those early weeks of the season before the template comes into effect, and also delays you having to use your wildcard a little bit later if that bench boost team doesn't smack really well from game week 1. It gives you an extra week of information where you can learn more about what the tactics are that the teams are using, what the teams are that the managers are selecting, and just gives you a little bit more flexibility as you go into game week 3. Maybe you only have to deal with 1 week. You can make a transfer and hope that your game week 3 team is a little bit nicer. Now, I've done a few drafts of bench boost in game week 1, and generally the game week 3 team has not looked too bad, and I think it looks quite nice. And I think that I may not have to wildcard in game week 4. The game week 4 teams also look okay by using that free hit in game week 2. However, if you don't get things right in that bench boost, if you don't pick the teams right, I would really recommend playing your wildcard in game week 4, using it then, and really sort of maximizing again your ability to attack these early season games, given the fact that we have so many chips, we have extra options. You can now save up 5 transfers, the same as you could last season, and then you get an additional 5 transfers for AFCON. There's really a lot of ways that FPL have built into the game this year that allows you to attack these early weeks a lot more. And sure, if you're looking to play the game safe and you don't want to do that, you want to have a safe team early on, wait for as much information as possible, that is another way to play the game. And here I've given some options on how you can do that. You can look potentially to use your free hit in game week 13. or game week 15 on specific fixtures. Now, if we look at the specific fixtures around that sort of game week 13, game week 15, maybe we look at the attacking side, which is a bit nicer. Game week 13, Manchester City against Leeds. Maybe you want to pull in Erling Haaland if you don't have him in your team. Or game week 15, Liverpool have Leeds and Manchester City have Sunderland. Perhaps you want to attack and have some additional Man City players in, some additional Liverpool players in that maybe you don't want to have in your normal team with the Pep Roulette system that's going on. These are those sort of opportunities that you can play your free hit in to attack a specific game week or a specific fixtures. However, I do think that if you plan your transfers nicely throughout the season, you will be able to have the correct Liverpool and Manchester City players that you want in your team at that time. So it is about a little bit of careful planning towards the back half of the season and a little bit of thought around what your teams want. But I think the optimal approach is to really try and attack those first few game weeks. Yes, you could get it wrong. Yes, the picks might not be perfect, but that is definitely the way to increase your rank the most at the start of the season. As we get towards those sort of middle periods from sort of game weeks 8 to game weeks 10, teams will start to converge a little bit, as is natural in FPL when there's more information in the game, when players start to emerge that we understand, when tactical systems of managers become more obvious, when the opposition managers know what the opposition managers are going to do, how they're going to set up. There's less big swings from unexpected results that you don't expect. So those are all things that you can bear in mind as you think about your chip strategy for the season. But I would suggest you just have a think about potentially using that bench boost in game week 1, free hitting in game week 2, and maybe looking to use a wildcard in game week 4 if you have to. If your team works really nicely and you can continue on without using that, then I think game week 12 and 13 is an excellent time to use that wildcard. And the next chip that you obviously have is the triple captain chip. Now, this is a chip where it's the simplest chip. You can use it in whatever week you think a player will score the most points to triple those points. You can target a specific fixture. You can use it on a differential if you want to maximize your rank gain and take a super aggressive strategy. I think that's a little bit more aggressive than I like to be in general playing FPL. I would say often I'm quite a conservative FPL manager. I like to pick the tactical aspects that I think are the correct ones. However, I really believe in this situation that if you want to win FPL and you want to get the top rank you can possibly go, an aggressive strategy at the beginning of the season is the optimal strategy to go for. Obviously, if you get it wrong, it's going to take a little bit of time to claw back, but it's definitely possible. For example, even if you're starting in the top 1 million for the first 8 game weeks of the season, you can easily finish back within the top 100k at the back end of the season, the top 50k, with a good strategy and good transfers every week. So yeah, for triple captain, I think there's multiple options. I've just put a few here on screen. I think that potentially if Gyökeres gets off to an unbelievable start for Arsenal, he could definitely be someone to look at in game week 11 against potentially Sunderland, or maybe even game week 2 for some of you against Leeds. So plenty of options for triple captain, and definitely lots that you can think about as we go forward. So here are my optimal chip strategies that I think are good. Triple captain, I think you can use in many weeks, but 11, 13, 14, 15, 19 all look like nice fixtures. Free hit in game week 2 after a bench boost is really nice, or 13 and 15 for some of those fixtures. For example, 15, Liverpool have Leeds, Man City have Sunderland. Wildcard, I think game week 4 is really nice. Game week 7 for that Arsenal defensive turn, or game week 12 before those fixture swings are good. And the bench boost, game week 1, I think is the optimal strategy. Get it out of the way, then get your team into a nicer structure with an early wildcard, or game week 13 after you've wildcarded in game week 12. Those are my thoughts for you guys. Hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into some different ideas for your teams. Hopefully that helps. If you have any questions on your specific teams, your specific strategies, chuck it down below in the comments. Please remember to give us a like, subscribe down to the channel if you have enjoyed this content. It will really help this small channel grow. I really appreciate all of you guys that watch these videos to the end. It really does help the algorithm. Thank you guys so much, and have a great game week, everyone.